Will County Legislative and Policy Committee meeting for June 13th. If we can please have roll call.
Tuminello, Harris, Corlitis,
Here.
Markham,
Here.
Moran,
Here.
O'Gala, here, Harper, here, Staley, Ferry, here, Hart, here, and Warren. We also have Virgil Service.
Excellent. Mike, can you please lead us?
I can. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we speak. Brett?
Hey, good morning, everyone. How you all doing?
Good morning.
Jim sent his best, but he had a family conflict, so he's unable to join us this morning. So I'm going to just kind of walk us through a brief Washington update, and then I'd like to go over the DC trip and some of the takeaways, and open it up to questions. And so, there's been a lot of news last several weeks with stuff not related on the legislative front. I'm going to focus on the legislative front. They continue to work toward fiscal year 2018 spending bills. Whenever you have a new administration, new Congress, it takes a little while to move the appropriations process. So what you're seeing right now this week and then the next several weeks are going to be hearings on the appropriations bills for fiscal year 2018, markups, and the like. And usually that happens in late February, March, and April. Again, when there's a new transition, this stuff gets delayed a little bit. We still don't have top line numbers because there's no fiscal year 2018 budget because, as we know, they just kind of finished, or they're still working on the 17 budget as part of the repeal and replace of the Affordable Care Act. And they passed the version in the House. It's now on to the Senate, and it looks like they're kind of working in behind the scenes on getting a package together. You may have read that they're trying to introduce something by just the July 4th recess. That may happen. As you probably know, the big issue continues to be the treatment of folks that have been part of the Medicaid expansion. And what happens to them, what happens to Medicaid expansion in general, and so that's kind of tripping up the Senate right now. So that's the big issue, and whether they can get enough votes, which is they need 50 votes to pass that in the Senate. That's not determined just yet. So the goal is for the Senate is to pass that by July 4th. If they can't get the votes, they may end up not voting on the package. They may try and work on that until the August recess. It's still up in the air. At the same time, they continue to push the infrastructure proposals. I sent around some articles last week. Last week was dubbed Infrastructure Week by the White House. They talked about privatizing their traffic control. They talked about getting more private dollars involved in all infrastructure, whether that's waterways or surface transportation. And then at the end of the week, they kind of talked about figuring out ways to speed up the permitting process. That's always been a tricky endeavor because of NEPA and all the regulations associated with that, and the fact that so many different agencies have to work together. There's been provisions in the last two surface transportation bills trying to address that, and those provisions actually haven't even totally been implemented. So there's a lot of members of Congress that need that the last two transportation bill rulemakings need to move forward before the White House or Congress moves on to any other new changes to permitting and moving the project process forward. The other big item that they continue to work on is tax reform. It's a complex issue. It's why they haven't passed anything since 1986 as complex as what they passed at that time. I kind of thought that from the very beginning, the stars are going to have to align. There's going to have to be a lot of people sucking up a lot of provisions they don't like. So I think it's going to be very difficult. And at the end of the day, it may just end up being tax cuts on the individual and possibly the business side. But they're going to continue to work towards, comprehensive reform. Right now, it's just the Senate hasn't moved too much forward. The House continues to work on their proposal, and the White House, has put out their principles I'd say it was about 5 or 6 weeks ago. So those are the kind of the three big issues: repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, tax reform, infrastructure investment, and then in the background, of course, you have the annual appropriations process. The counties continue to talk with the delegation, send letters, let them know what programs are important to us. And I think this may be a good, smooth transition into the Washington trip, unless anyone has any immediate questions about what I just spoke about in the Washington update.
Mike?
Yeah, Brett, thanks for sending those articles along on the tax cuts. So are you hearing that temporary is now the new word on tax cuts, that they're looking more at temporary instead of permanent?
Well, I think they're looking at both. I think what they want is permanent, but I think they'd rather, if they can't get permanent, they're gonna. I see this process moving to at least the end of the year, making a really hard drive on permanent tax cuts in a comprehensive bill. But I think at the end of the day, if they can't get anything, they're gonna attempt to do temporary tax cuts. That's just what I am seeing from different folks and hearing on the Hill.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Questions? Okay, yep, we're good on that.
All right, so why don't we move along to the Washington trip? I felt like we had a really good trip. We met with every single member of the delegation, saw all 8 members of the delegation, which was fantastic. And we also had some good agency trips. I felt like there were 3 themes I'd say that we really touched on in every office, and there were different takeaways from each office. Obviously, we talked about the freight study and some of the preliminary findings that have come about from the freight study. And I would say every member and every staffer was impressed that the county took initiative and decided that a comprehensive look into this issue and the real reason why there has to be serious federal investment in the county, it made sense to document that. And so I think, some of the findings we showed them, specifically, where freight comes into the county, doesn't go through the county, that was interesting. Some of the top priorities of the folks taking the surveys from the industry, and then of course, areas where there were deficient bridges, areas where there's the most congestion. Those were just really helpful pieces of information we were able to share with every member and their staff. And in fact, Senator Duckworth's office asked for some of the slides so that she could potentially blow those up and speak about them on the Senate floor or in committee hearings. And that's very important because she's on 2 very important committees for transportation, environment, and public works, and the Senate Commerce Committee. So, I thought that was a real positive. The second issue that we talked about was the opiate epidemic that's hitting the whole country, but that Will County's been aware of for some time and has really, taken initiative and talked about it and tried to figure out ways to mitigate it, 5, 6, 7 years, which I think everyone was very impressed, including HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, and the Substance Abuse Agency associated with HHS. And then the third area was kind of, I would say, we tied in the importance of tax-exempt municipal bonds because of the bonding the county has done, and the importance to have that vehicle, you know, in the future, or to bond more, or just to let them know that, you know, counties are making investments on their own all over the country, and this cannot be changed. I felt like that resonated, and it was good that we could kind of talk about real projects that have utilized bonding and why the county's been a good steward and use of bonding as a financing mechanism. And then, of course, we talked about our top federal programs that are helpful to the land use department, to emergency management department, et cetera, to the health department. So I thought those were kind of our three themes. You know, our big ask from every office was, when the time comes after, you know, we've studied and gotten our recommendations and finalized all our conclusions with the PRATE study, and we want to put together our series applications for federal dollars, we want your strong support. And, you know, we got nods and yeses across the board, which I thought was real positive. And then the agencies, you know, it was just very informative, and we made some good contacts with the Department of Health and Human Services and Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration. I think we'd like to do a follow-up call with their folks, and Kathleen Burke, just to kind of talk about ways to utilize their federal programs. You know, there's been money that's been released recently, and I know you guys were just awarded some dollars, which is fantastic news, but we did get an indication from them that they're going to ramp up funding starting in August and September, so there's going to be a little bit of a lull the next few months. But it was just good to kind of get some information on when the next money will be available, you know, for our purposes. But we're going to continue the dialogue between HHS. I think you know, we got some good contacts and names of people that are both based in Illinois, but also based in DC headquarters, to make sure that we're, you know, looking and trying to get all of the funding to fight the horrible epidemic that, you know, really impacting Will County, but also the region and the rest of the country. DOT was, you know, a good meeting. We met with both political and career staff. You know, the career staff had some real good specifics on, you know, what we need to have ready to go when we apply for federal dollars, who we should talk to, you know, whether that's people at IDOT or the local FHWA, Federal Highways Office, when we're looking to apply for federal dollars for some of our projects, and, you know, to work with Illinois and talk with them, make sure, you know, we have all our ducks in a row when we go after those dollars. So that was helpful, and also we got a little bit of a feel for the next round of the Tiger and the Fast Lane, or whatever they're going to call that competitive freight grant program, from the political folks. So I thought those were, again, some good contacts and good context for explaining where we're taking Will County and the surface transportation. And then the last meeting was with the Economic Development Administration. You know, we know some of the people we met with, but we also met with some new political people, which, you know, we're trying to continue the dialogue, and I thought that was a real productive meeting. And I think there are a couple of programs that we're going to want to take advantage of. We have some follow-up conversations, and I think the key is that we want to talk with the Illinois EPA people, and you know, they mentioned we should come up with some ideas, float them to the EDA people, and they'll work with us, because a lot of these programs, they don't have an open or closed date. It's kind of, you send them some ideas, and they work with you to try and see if they can fund those projects within the parameters of the program. So we've had some initial conversations about trying to team up with, you know, the Will County Workforce Investment Board, and maybe some of the local colleges, junior colleges around the region. So I would say that kind of sums up the DC meetings. I thought they went real well. You know, Chairman Speaker Moustis and Board Member Hart and Nick did an excellent job. Really touched on what's going on in the county, and I thought they were an efficient meeting, but also we hit all of the high points.
Jim? Speaker Mustis actually just walked in and during your comments, so I don't know, did you have?
I agree with Brett as far as the summary that, we had a very productive, it was kind of hectic, it was very productive, efficient. And we left there, I thought we made a little bit of progress, and I look forward to the upcoming year to maybe get some things done. I don't know if Brett mentioned, we had 12 visits in less than 24 hours. That was pretty hectic, from one thing to the other, and running to the airport. Who then denied my
It took him a little extra long to get through security.
at the airport.
But all in all, it was a great job.
Yeah.
And it was,
They ignored my TSA
Right.
pre-qualification.
but yeah, other than that, it was great. And
Yeah.
Brett, you have always had, made comment, that's great, and we have these large groups that come down, and this was your ask, let's go smaller. And the one thing I definitely have noticed, with just having a few walk in, it was a different climate. It was wonderful.
Well, I think, especially the congressional folks, it was a much more relaxed environment, just a few of us there, actually. They were just like sitting back, and I thought it was productive.
It wasn't like a presentation, it was a discussion, and it was great.
Yeah.
And we'd be interested in doing, another small trip in the fall or the end of the year if that works for folks, if that makes sense and there's things coming up. I think the smaller groups are the way to go. I know there's a lot of people that are interested in advocating for the county's causes, and I get that. But I think the small groups really, like you said, it's kind of a more relaxed environment. But that's not to say the larger groups work out too. But I thought this was a great couple days, 24 hours, like you said, speaker, and it was fast paced. But we got to all the meetings on time. So.
Well, obviously, the large groups, and I've gone, we've always had very large groups. They're much more difficult to manage.
When you get in the
So,
offices.
I thought it was really smooth. It
You
doesn't
always
look
leave
good.
somebody behind all the time.
Yeah, I try. I don't have to worry about her. I don't have to worry about the Reverend Brooks keeping up.
Just leave me behind.
He's out there window shopping, we're like, what are you doing, when you get in the car? It was good. Nick, did you have any comments?
The only thing I would add is that the two things we talked about in Washington, and we hopefully putting something together on is CDBG is one of the things in the budget that's being proposed to be cut, and we were scheduled to have a call tomorrow. We're going to actually reschedule that, but Will County has been a very good steward of not only CDBG money, but other federal money, and that was one of the things we touched on is our workforce, our CDBG. But we're putting a letter together that would go under the county executive and the speaker's signature, kind of highlighting those successes and cautioning them about eliminating that program because the value of, we've leveraged like 4 to 1 on the money that we've received and done important projects in all parts of the county. The other thing is Brett mentioned the EDA, and that meeting we discussed kind of innovation. Obviously Will County is the center of freight, but using some of that kind of battleground as a testing for innovative ideas, and they were pushing us to be more innovative, to work with the universities. And one example of that is Lewis University is just launching an incubator program. They're in the process of planning for that, and there's actually an enterprise zone meeting this afternoon on that project, and that's somewhere where possibly we can partner, whether it be the freight or there's some other issues. They were talking about coal jobs, that we have some coal plants here that people are going to be losing jobs, and so there may be transition opportunities. So lots of opportunities, and it was a good trip, I thought. So.
And that was an interesting meeting.
Commerce?
Yeah, Commerce.
That was so
It was a
interesting.
different- I wasn't expecting to hear that kind of input from the federal government. So it was interesting. The fellow was interesting.
He's a PhD, so.
Is that what that was? He was amazing.
Well, yeah, and he went on to say, you have all these logistic jobs, they're all going to go away. He says, it'll all be automated. And, you know, and as far as saying, you know, all the computers in their computers will be automated. Computers running computers, I guess, you know.
Yeah, that's what.
You know, but anyways, he was interested. He had a more, you know, years ago, I think it was maybe in the 70s, I remember reading about Future Shock. You remember the Future Shock guy talking about what would happen in the future, but,
And that was our last meeting, and I remember, I kept questioning, like, what are we gonna get out with the Commerce? And it was something different that I've never experienced, but you left thinking about that meeting I'm still thinking about some of the things he had said, so. When another group goes, I highly recommend going to see down.
you know, he mentioned Nick too, he gave us, I think, at least one example, maybe two, of counties or cities that actually had some successes in those areas.
I think one was Seattle.
Austin.
I've got some notes.
Austin, Texas, I think.
You remember, Brett?
It was Austin.
You got notes from that, Brett. You told us to look at a couple
My circles.
examples. I would like to take a look at those.
Okay. Yeah, I think one was Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Ray will go there and check it out.
Gone in a couple weeks.
Can you go check that out first?
Yeah, so, you know, let's do some additional follow-up with that. Because that's something that there's a little learning curve to. So, you know, maybe we can start educating ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. That was definitely one that I think we need to kind of emphasize and get more information on. But he was talking a million miles a minute, so. All right. Any other questions, comments? Before did you have any more, Nick? Did you have any? Okay. All right, Brett, I think that's it.
All right, everyone, please have a nice day, and we'll be in touch. Take care.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Brett.
appreciate it.
Bye.
Okay, we go from Brett over to Brent.
I know.
It's so, I have to like write it down. It's like,
Brett.
Brett. Okay.
Good morning.
Morning, Glory.
This is like Groundhog Day. I'm back again, and really nothing has changed. So, we are still in an active session down in Springfield, even though May 31st came and went. The only difference now is anything that passes will have to have a supermajority vote. There is no budget. The Senate basically sent out sent a budget over to the House, didn't act upon it in the House. So there's ongoing appropriation committee hearings happening right now during the last couple weeks or next couple weeks. There's some speculation we might be back next week or the following week. So, but really nobody knows except a couple of people, and they haven't really shared that with a lot of people right now what their intentions are. So there was a budget passed out of the Senate on a partisan roll call. Basically, the Democrats support the budget. They had a revenue piece of it. The revenue piece was an income tax increase spread into service tax in certain service areas. That's over in the House. There was the local distribution fund was taken out of the final version of the Senate Bill 9. There was a property tax, 2-year property tax freeze with some limitations on what it could be used for. So there's some things in that impacted the county, but the local distribution was taken out. I think thanks to a lot of efforts from the county associations, different people such as yourselves talking to people about that. I gotta warn you, I still think that if there's ever gonna be a solution to this problem, that you have to be prepared that they might be looking at that as a temporary fund to take from for a period of time. So I've mentioned that before. I think that, you know, you might want to start documenting something if you lower by this percentage or that percentage, what it would do to impact the budget of the county and where you would have to make it up or what you would have to do. Because if they ever, and you know, there's a lot of over-under on the bets about what if we'll ever get a budget. by 2018. Right now, I think we're sitting at $16 billion in back bills. If this goes through the election cycle, the projection is it could be close to $29 billion by the time we get through the election cycle. And then if Rauner's reelected or if there's a new governor, you got 6 months to play with trying to solve the problem. So you probably could be up to about $35 billion, which is basically 1 year of general revenue funds in the state of Illinois. So all your tax and everything is 1 year. Takes about $100,000 in income to support $1 billion worth of borrowing. So do the math. If they ever had to borrow money to pay the back bills, you'd probably have to come up with additional $3.5 billion a year just to pay the back bills over a period of time. So I mean that would give you some. This thing is on a downhill slide and it's not getting any better. And so with all that good news.
Is that with jump on rating?
Well, that's in your report too. We're right at the level of being
The interest
at the jump
rate
pad.
just quoted us, is that our current?
No, well, we're paying an extreme lot of money on, when we do pay our bills on back to, because we have the Prompt Payment Act, which allows vendors to get 12% on their money. And because of that, there's a cottage market that's sprung up where guys will buy the debt of the state because it's good return on your money. Even those guys are getting nervous about picking up the debt of the state now because they're not sure they're going to get paid. So it's not a good situation. I'll be happy to go through the report if there's anything.
There's
If you want to ask me some questions other than what's happening about particular bills.
Well, I think there's also, we had put on there, because there's been a lot of question about the whole property tax freeze, of what exactly was introduced and what the negotiation of where we're at with that. And I know as well with like the Chicago school districts and how that, there's a couple bills out there. So if you can kind of just kind of explain what that, what is on the table and kind of how that would affect us.
Well, the one that's on the table that came out of the Sun is basically a 2-year property tax freeze. Rauner's looking for anywhere from 3 to 5 years, preferably 5 years. Chicago is exempted out of the bill because they just raised their property taxes so much last year. And so the bottom line, I think, on the property tax is everybody's concerned about your debt. Anybody that's taken out debt, that's exempt from property tax, so you can adjust with it and different things. I would assume you're going to get, if there ever is an agreement, a property tax freeze of some kind. I don't have a magic wall to tell you what it's going to impact the county, but there's been a lot of argument to take out debt and pension payments, to exempt them from the property tax freeze, so people, as they're, in particular municipalities, have a huge burden on their police and firemen's pensions that they can try to catch up, and that's not impacted. The property tax freeze would impact that dramatically, and that's where the sticking points are, is, you know, what you do. You know, it's very, obviously property tax polls very well when you're doing political side of the equation. I mean, if everybody says freeze your property tax, everybody's going to say yes. It's off the charts in polling. I think it's unfortunate that the state of Illinois is dictating the local governments, you know, your policy. And I think that's the message that's been sent out, that you elect local county boards, municipalities, school boards and whatnot. If you have problems with them, go to the polls and change your elected officials there if you have issues. But for some reason, I think it's a very popular issue down in Springfield, and I think they're going to continue pushing this at some level. Don't know what that will be, but I local distribution funds and property tax freeze. If this ever gets to that point, it's probably going to be on the table.
Right. The stuff that's on the table, are they talking about just freezing, I'm sorry, are they just talking about freezing the levy, for instance, or are they talking about freezing everything, like new property, you couldn't reassess developed property or anything?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get too far on that because there's opinions about new property coming on board, that would be exempt. There's all sorts of, you know, it sounds, like I said, in a nutshell, when you say property tax freeze, everybody thinks that your property is going to be, you know, stable and nothing's going to change from 1 year to the next. I'm not sure if that's true, depending on what they do with if they allow you to access your new run, I would assume they have to allow you to access your new.
Because if they're freezing the rate.
Right.
If the assessed valuation goes up, you're at the same rate.
New properties
you
come on,
receive
more
more
pay
money.
property, you're gonna receive more money.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that's what I keep seeing as rate, not levy rate.
Well,
Right.
it all depends on how they write the bill.
Right,
They
that's
say,
what I'm-
they say
Well,
you
what I
can bring
see-
in exactly the same amount of money. but
I
it-
thought what I seen when I read the things that were out, pretty continually talk about the rate. That was-
there's not a lot of communication between the caucuses and the governor's office, so you're getting a spin from one side or the other. Cullerton's been the one on the Senate side who's been the most out there as far as leading the charge, trying to find agreement and putting things on the table. Madigan in the House has been very cautious in regarding, he said at the last week of his caucus that he had 46 members that were willing to support the Senate version of the budget. 42 or 40, I think I got up to 46. There was no suggestion that there's going to be a bipartisan effort of supporting a budget right now. So we'll see. We'll see by the end of the month, we'll have either what we call a stopgap budget where they'll go ahead and, must. The key in Springfield that affects every legislator is K through 12 funding of the elementary, secondary educational funding. That scares the death out of everybody not to have that budget passed. So right now, that's in jeopardy. So if you don't open the schools on time or something like that, everybody feels the heat. Some suggested that we shouldn't pass that budget until we have a full budget, and that would force everybody to the table. I doubt if they have the, I'm not sure if they'll do that. So we'll probably see something emerge out of here at the end of the month or beginning of July. Doesn't really matter now because it takes 71 votes and 36 in the Senate, so it's going to have to be a bipartisan effort, at least in the House. So we'll see what happens.
There's a couple other bills too that we were discussing hourly almost, I feel, with that small cell bill.
Yes.
Can
That
you kind of
failed,
explain?
as
That
you
failed
know.
twice. No.
Failed once.
Once. That was the one I'm going to ask you about. It failed twice.
It failed once. There was, and you probably could talk better about the governmental, the municipal league had negotiated what I assume was kind of an agreement, but it apparently wasn't agreed to by all their members throughout the state, and there's still a lot of pushback at the last minute on the small. Are you all familiar with what these things are to get to 5? You shouldn't ask me about computer type stuff because I'll screw up. To get to 5, what's it called?
5G.
So they put these small 5G,
5G.
so to allow them to get this service out to the areas, they have to have these, what they call these small cell type things. And what they do is they install them on posts about the size of a laptop, a larger laptop, or a little bit bigger, or a little bit smaller. And they come in different varieties of what they use. And each supplier, whether it be Verizon, Sprint, AT&T, would be able to have these capabilities of installing these on the thing. And the sticking point was, first of all, it basically preempts home rule. So, and it allows them through a statewide to be able to go in and put these things up without, you want to come up?
I know, I'm looking at you going, you could chime in anytime.
You get up here. Because I'm fumbling on this one, I have no
Bring him
idea.
up here.
Well, he was, okay, so I know Hugh from the Will County Governmental League, and he's wonderful and watches all over us. So, go.
Brent's right. I mean, the big concern is that it takes away local control, not only with the placement of the devices, because it allows a statewide sort of, not quite franchise, but essentially a franchise, to go ahead and put them on municipal facilities. Now, some of our concern is, one, it has revenue caps on it, what we can charge to use those facilities. And then there's also the, when we talk about Next Gen 911, the placement of those devices and what needs to be done for that, that some of those locations could be taken up with these small cell devices. On top of that, you've got other issues where communities have spent millions of dollars to bury power lines, cable lines, telephone lines, and now you're going to have these small cell devices tacked on to all kinds of light posts, street lamps, etc., that are just going to look terrible. Some of them look, okay. Some of them look awful. Depends on the provider. So you've got communities that spent money to put up decorative light posts, and now you're going to have boxes hanging off of them. So you've got a range of issues, from revenue to appearance to the safety issues with 911. Now, the IML, as Brent said, did try to negotiate the bill. They couldn't get to a negotiated bill, so they ended up going from opposed to neutral on it. The thing with this technology is that in large part it only needs to happen in densely populated urban areas. The city of Chicago is exempt, and then all the COGs in Northeast Illinois are still opposed. So I would suggest that the groups that are actually impacted by this are all still opposed. The Northwest Municipal Conference is kind of leading the charge for the suburbs on this because they're most impacted right now. They already have this deployed in their area. And then we're going to try and work with Brandon Phelps, who's the House sponsor, to see if we can come to some type of an agreement on this bill over the summer.
And it hasn't been, and the reason why we really haven't had this on, it's not in Will County yet. So it has not really been introduced and came up
Correct.
down by us.
So far, our communities haven't really had any issue with it, so we've sort of taken a back seat to those areas that are dealing with it right now.
So we're kind of just going to watch, and it has not been good. I know, and Nick, that was a great suggestion you had put out for talking with Jeff, talking with our highway engineer, who had said, no, this, they can put it up without ask. I guess that was the other thing.
Yeah.
That's right. And so then you go to move something, it could just be that to me just seems so absurd. So anything in general, and we, I think, are very much in agreement, and these are coming up the pipe and it's coming up, where do we stand? Well, anything that wants to take the control out of the county, we're opposed. And just, no matter where these hold it, just in anything that's going on, that any bill that's out there that is not going to be coming back for an ask, we're not in favor. So
You're using a public asset for private sector use. You have to really demonstrate what's the public benefit. It's not to their bottom line. I would think it's one of the arguments for them.
yes, cell towers has always been a hot issue.
Sometimes it's not a public asset, though. Some they could be, but they pay for that. I'm saying to use a public asset at no cost. There has to be a real burden of proof of public benefit.
And this will come back, even though it did. I thought this will be something that'll be ongoing. And it was also kind of unusual. I found that when they were going in, talking with the sponsors, they were only allowing one governmental group to get in there, and that was the IML, and then they go neutral, so kind of let the rest.
That was the Senator Link who negotiated the bill, made it very clear that he didn't want to have a room full of, didn't want a room full of everybody represented, so he asked for one government entity to come in and be kind of the umbrella agency. And of course, the IML would make the most sense because they're the most impacted by it. So they led the charge on the bill. That's nothing unusual.
That they would have one.
Yeah,
Is it unusual that they went neutral? That to me, that wasn't
no,
what.
I think they try to work to the best of point. And they have to realize the other side of the equation is everybody wants this technology. And to be able to get it to people who customer-wise wants it,
Right.
they want to be able to figure out a way. And a few years ago, when AT&T came up with their U-verse issue, we did a statewide franchise. So they didn't have to do what they do going through. So there's precedence been set on the statewide franchising. It's nothing unusual to circumvent local control, and no disrespect to government entities, but there's some people that will hold certain things hostage for the bottom line is price and how much more can we get out of it and blah, blah, blah. So if you have...
It's about revenues?
It's about revenues, basically, what I'm saying. There's not that our guys would ever do that, but...
No, it's about the revenue.
It's about the revenue.
Yeah.
So we're fiscally responsible.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You would. Okay.
But it's an ongoing process. I'm not sure. They might make another run at it, or they might avoid the state for a while. You know, with the technology, they might just move on to another, because I think it's in 18 states right now that they have some kind of agreement.
Yeah, part of the problem is that there's one company that's sort of a bad actor in it that is just wanting to put these things up everywhere that isn't associated with the provider. They're just a separate company that tries to put these things up and then sell them to providers who don't want them, so.
Actually, that was going to be my next question, because I know we were talking about this last week. That is, when they put up these laptop-looking things on the light post, is it AT&T, Verizon, or does one go and generate for all of them?
I think they have to have their individual.
Oh, see, now that can be, so you can have these goofy-looking things on every single pole, because you got AT&T on that one, you got
I
Verizon
think
here,
the
you
price
got...
that they negotiated was $200
Yep.
annual.
Yeah.
So,
More than one on a pole, or just they spread it out like in the community? Or more than, if AT&T got one and
Right, that's what I...
Verizon got, is it more than one on a pole?
Hugh, do you know if, like, yeah, do you have, is it like one on each pole, or could you have 5 on one pole? Or how are they even?
It's, as far as I know, it's one per pole.
One.
So you can have it on every pole,
But they're not spaced out very far.
Yeah, they only work for a couple hundred yards.
and that could look goofy. We'll just wait, when they come to be like this big, we can bring it back.
They're really for like densely populated downtown type areas. They're not necessarily for everywhere, because they're only, it's my understanding that they only transmit about 200 yards.
Oh, goodness.
And this kind of, we do have some densely populated out of corporate areas. I'm sure they'll find the trip. More densely populated than a lot of our municipalities, but larger than some of many of our municipalities.
Well, that-
Roll here,
I see that.
So-
I don't see that, I see that coming back. Maybe not next year, but we'll kind of keep an eye on that one. All right, thank you. And then, thank you so much. The other, if you could just really quick touch on Hastings bill with the quarry.
yeah, we had a bill, a House Bill 2880, that we weren't really paying attention to it in the House because we're working on our groundwater monitoring bill, having some problems in the House, even getting a hearing on our bill because of the committee it went through with the chairman. And this other bill that came out was House Bill 2880, and basically what it allowed is for these quarry operators or these clean construction demolition sites to be able to close their sites, partially close their sites and sell it off. Don't know exactly what the need of the bill was for. If there's somebody throughout the state that has one of these larger facilities and was able to dump, wants to split it off. They can do this now, but they have to close their whole site, sell off a proportion of it, and then go back and apply for a permit again. And according to them, it was very time consuming. They didn't want to do it. We really didn't see the need because we somewhat got frustrated with not getting a hearing in the House. We decided to oppose this bill in the Senate. And we were successfully defeated it twice, which caused us a little anxiety with one of our local senators. We can't quite figure out what the urgency is of this bill. We kind of tied it into groundwater monitoring. We did get a lot of exposure to our issue with groundwater monitoring at our sites. In lieu of this bill, the chairman of the environmental committee in the Senate has agreed to hold hearings on this bill. Senator Hastings himself is committed to work on getting groundwater monitoring. So in the Senate side, and I got to tell you, Pat McGuire was a champion of this issue and helping us defeat this. He did a phenomenal job. So credits goes to Pat McGuire. We had a very good lobbying effort. The bill got called twice and we defeated it. And it was a very contentious bill, believe it or not. And I don't know how to explain it, but this is a very contentious bill. And it was very dramatic when the vote was being taken the second time.
No, I watched it. It was very interesting. I even texted Lauren and got her,
So,
turn on your iPad. This is
Um,
good. And Pat McGuire was,
we're gonna follow up with Senator
Good for Will.
Hastings, wants to meet with us again. Don't know exactly why, but we got involved with, State's Attorney gave us, Phil Mock gave us a letter regarding some of the suggestions that Representative Hastings said we could monitor groundwater now. We disputed his efforts using the Stormwater Management Act. Somehow he interpreted it that we could use this bill for groundwater monitoring. Phil did a nice job of, State's Attorney did a nice job of responding to his legal interpretation. and
of the difference of the
dismissed-
two.
yeah,
Even though
dismissed
Senator
it.
Hastings said that's not true.
They still disagree.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so, that bill, but one thing I want to mention, because of all this activity, we've kind of elevated the groundwater monitoring more so than we've ever had down there. This actually helped us in getting our issue to the forefront. So I think going forward, this is actually going to turn into be a positive. So,
Oh, I agree. The phone calls and the emails we're receiving, and this is definitely, thank you so much, Brennan, on this. This has been, and I do like saying, even when you were, in the House and all that, this has been on your goal, and your to-do list, and you're doing it. So
we're getting there.
we're definitely.
Well, I did see Senator Hastings at the Walk for Life in Frankfurt.
What's that?
I seen Senator Hastings at the Walk for Life in Frankfurt last Friday. And he seemed to be supportive of monitoring. At least to me. For whatever that's worth.
Does he
I'll
still think
hold-
stormwater is the same as groundwater?
Well, he didn't actually say money. I'm all for your clean water and that's for
Yeah.
you. So,
Yeah, we had a difference of opinion this year, and
interesting.
it was okay. And, Nick seemed part of the difference of opinion one meeting, and we got thrown out of the room.
Well, I would tell you this, you wear like a badge of honor, and you say, yeah, I would. And they threw us off.
But Senator Hastings has committed, to his credit, to work towards groundwater monitoring. We're going to hold him to it. And Senator McGuire has, we had a meeting with the chairman, McGuire and the chairman of the committee, Senator Kaler from Peoria, said he would hold hearings on this in the summer to understand the issue. As you know, there's another editorial in the Chicago Tribune supporting our position. So it really, this debate on the floor is very interesting because it came up, and Dean's not here, but to make a long story short, there was testings done at the request of the IPA because of all this going on. The IPA, through Margo McDermott, introduced the bill with the governor's support. Emily McCasey introduced the bill and then reintroduced the bill after we cleaned up some language on it. Margo and Emily were working on this. The EPA decided to go out and randomly test all the sites in the state of Illinois, just on a surprise testing. I'm not sure if they've ever done this before. Results came back in our county at random. I'm talking about somebody going out and taking a sample on the site, just one sample, and 8 out of the 9 sites had some elevations of contamination. Now, the director called me and said, hey, these are some natural occurring type things, and he's probably correct in some of the, but we had higher elevations. So if I think you talk to any engineer or anybody else, if you have any indication that you would want to probably go back in there and make sure that this is just, isolated issue or something, you want to double check it. So this, I think, bodes well towards our argument that there needs to be more oversight. And so we're getting there.
I've said that, well, let us go in and test.
And I think we can, because we have the delegation agreement. If we're willing to pay the lab fees, I think we can do that. That might be something we want to discuss.
I think we should strongly consider it.
No, Jim, I agree.
Because if they're using it as an excuse, then let us go in and do it.
At the very least, we'd have a basis that we
That's
could
right.
examine a year from now or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and also I think anytime you have more oversight, it makes people play within the rules much more.
I agree.
No,
If
I'm
they
glad
think
we're
they-
talking about this.
If they think they're not being watched, they might stretch it a little bit.
I would like to have possibly, especially since you're home in the summer, you know what else?
This has a site.
You've done some drilling, haven't you?
I don't landscape, I can pretty much lay in there.
Drill some holes in the ground, right?
I got the equipment.
You know, I'm ready for you for a little while. Get out there, if you could just go out and test, but I would like to, I would, for us to kind of dole into this a little bit more.
We should
And-
probably have, and let me just interrupt, you know, Dean was very helpful in our last couple weeks, because I was on the phone with him constantly, and I know I was a pain to him, and he was a little reluctant, because, you know, we do have a delegation with the EPA, and he has to be cautious about the information before he was given the information on a phone call. He didn't see the information, but, you know, he was kind enough to explain it in the letter that Senator McGuire used it on the House floor, so I give Dean a lot of credit. He was very helpful, and he's compiled a list of all the sites for us where they're incorporated. And he's been doing some work that we've been asking him to do, just so we have some background documentation. But he's, again, we have to work with Dean to make sure that anything that we do are within our delegation agreement with the Alma EPA, because that's a very important agreement that we have with them.
I have a question. Has anyone ever gone on to like one of these quarries and done a tour? I mean, I bet you have. Have you ever gone in
I've
there?
been in the quarries,
To McGuire's credit, he went out there the week and before and went on one of the quarries down here off of Richard Street.
I would like to, you know, as we sit there and we talk about this, I just think this would be something, and, yeah, get some lines. I would like to go out and see when we, you know, here we go, we have the ask. And I think it would just be good, especially with this committee where this has been one of our large focals, and, you know, or any, not just this committee, if anyone on, you know, any of our county board members even kind of do this, and so we know, you know what you're talking about. This is what we're doing, this is why, and this is how it happened. So, because every time I talk to you or anyone else about it, I'm learning more. So this, a very important issue. Mike?
Jim, why don't we bring this to public health and safety and do it?
Well, we can bring out,
Health department.
I think that, well, it's really solid waste that would do it, not health.
Not solid.
Yeah.
So the health, I mean,
This makes like-
solid
You
waste.
can't, you know, first of all, you can't get on these sites because you have to have a delegation agreement to be paid.
You don't have the
a certified
authority, right.
inspector.
So it's solid waste, if there's anything that would allow us to go on the site, it would be the solid waste division, because they have that.
And maybe the health department does have the authority. I
don't think so.
Not sure.
Sue, that's Sue. Elizabeth, love, do you know?
If we have the authority to go onto the site,
Quarry sites,
She's like, yeah, thank you for
maybe
asking.
we could
I
find out, but. probably
unless
not.
there's a health issue, I don't think we probably do. If there's
Mark,
something
do you
we
know?
But under the delegation agreement, we certainly could ask sites if they would allow a tour.
Yeah.
And like today, Joan's taking some teachers on a tour of the landfill, and that's arranged with Waste Management, even though we own the landfill. So it's something that I'm sure we could coordinate if it's.
If the owner of the
something
site, because I do, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting back to the health department, though, I mean, they do wells, private wells, and those types of things. I don't think you do any other water monitoring, do you, Elizabeth?
We only do bacteria and nitrates. I mean, we wouldn't have the capabilities to test for organics or inorganics or metals or anything like that.
I do think it goes back to solid waste. That's what, and that's really is tested, whether it be a landfill or, I'm a caucus, they're really online landfills is what they're doing, so.
Well, solid waste department is an extension of the Illinois EPA through the delegation agreement, so they have the authority basically to go in and spot check and do all the things that the EPA has the authority to do. And that's what's so great about the delegation agreement.
And I think the dean does have
Yes.
that
Yeah,
ability.
we could
Well,
work,
he's got
yeah, we
two-
could figure this out.
He's
It's
got
also,
two inspectors,
it's
right?
all, he has 3 inspectors.
3 inspectors.
He's an inspector, and we also have it in our solid waste plan for groundwater monitoring.
We can maybe talk more about that. Especially, we're not going to be meeting next month, but maybe we can do something on.
But having said, it doesn't mean that, you know, the health committee can't
Well,
have a discussion about
Sure.
it. Yeah,
Right,
I'm just saying that.
and everyone would be invited, of course. Okay.
Anything else?
Nope, that's good, even though you could maybe stay seating right there, because Marta was gonna come up and talk about the electronic recycling update.
Yeah, Marta did a great job, to let you know, she attended, I don't know how many meetings in Springfield. It got to a level above my technical capabilities, which is a pretty low bar. So,
Well, the good news is we did manage to pass Senate and House bill on electronics recycling, which does assure us that for next year, the state will have the same weight-based goal that it's had this past year, which is almost 50 million pounds for the state. And we do have commitments from the recyclers that we currently have right now that they would like to work with us next year. So we look forward to being able to continue our program at least as it exists right now, the same way that we're doing it. And it seems to be growing, so we're very pleased with that. Shanahan is supposed to come online this week, and Wilmington will hopefully, if everything gets passed on Thursday, come online next month. So yeah, we're very pleased with that. We hope to do more one-day events next year to help supplement those collections as well. So that's really the nice news. The additional news with that bill is that we're going to switch over from a weight-based goal for the state to a convenience standard. The convenience standard states that any county who opts in to the EPA and what is called a manufacturer clearinghouse program, which would be by March of next year, they'd be opting in for the following year. So in March of 18, we have to opt in for 2019. We would tell them what our sites were, that we want to do one days. We would tell them who we like to use for our recycler. They would pick up the tab much the same way that the manufacturing funding is working right now. They would not cover the costs that we're covering for the actual packing of the truck and sorting of the material and stacking. Those costs would still be on us, unfortunately. They are not backing down on that. But it does open a way for a lot of the other counties in the state who have never participated. At least 50% of the counties in the state have never had a program at all for electronics. They would be able to opt in as well. And we're hoping that we'll see more programs come into being that way, as well as some of the counties near us that are charging, which can also lead to illegal dumping in our county. So that's happening in DuPage and Kane and parts of Cook. So we'd like to see that go away.
No, absolutely. And us, being Forest Preserve as well, we do have issues with this with the Forest Preserve.
Yes, and we always work with the Forest Preserve to take their materials too.
A lot of those dump things along the highways.
Yeah, I couldn't
That's one way down as our programs have been getting out there, the news is getting out there. Joliet has it advertised on their electronic billboards to go to Will County Green, and then people find all the different sites. So that's really, considering we really didn't have a program for only 2 months, we're really tackling a lot of illegal dumping, I think.
Picture, you're driving down the street, you're like, all right, honey, push out that TV.
But yeah, so we're really looking forward to that. I want to give you a caveat. There has been a pushback by CTA, the Consumer Technology Association, that represents a large portion of the manufacturers, to the point where there were a number of no votes in the House. And they're trying to get the governor to veto this or have a trailer bill attached to it. And we're waiting to hear a little bit more on that. We were supposed to see a trailer bill, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, there's a possibility the governor, because the EPA was opposing the bill, and there's supposed to be this trailer bill that comes out to address their concerns, and Pam Altoff from Lake County's been working on this. Natalie Manley picked it up. As you all know, Emily is no longer a state representative, and I got to tell you, Emily was a great state representative for us. She did a great job. I got to know her very.
You don't like it.
I think it was a dig too, Brad.
I'm glad to have you here. I'm glad to be here too. But Emily did a great job up until then. She carried a lot of weight for us in Springfield, so she will be missed, and I'm not sure who her new replacement is. But
There still hasn't been any names brought up?
They're going through a process.
Yeah. So we'll have a new legislator. Natalie picked up the bill in the House and carried it, and we're coming It was pretty well received in the House. I think we have a chance to make sure that this, even if there is a veto, this could be one of those rare occasions where there could be maybe an override. We'll see. We'll see.
We're working on the small issues that CTA has. The irony to me is that CTA is actually the one that orchestrated the bill in its current form, for the most part.
I'm just glad I don't have to attend these meetings anymore.
When you're there.
I can't.
Very painful. No offense, Marta, they're very.
Well, those who are into it, they're gonna pay for
Oh,
that.
they're not, they're not. You should see them, man. It's really kind of entertaining watching that part of it, so.
They love me.
Thank you.
So much.
You know, as we go, and as you're still sitting there, we kind of went on to the new business. Oh, no, we're good with you. Thank you. And with the recap of the end of the session, Steve, with 911, if we could just, there was a big bill that came out that affects.
Should I come up?
Yes, please. And Brett, you can still stay right there. This is really important for us as well.
Madam Chair and committee, thank you for your time. I'm Steve Rauter. I'm the Executive Director at Westcom, but also the Chairman of the Will County Emergency Telephone System Board. Senate Bill 1839 was passed in both houses and is supposedly on its way to the governor's desk for signature. What that bill did is several things. It extended the 911 Act till 2020. Which is a big goal for us because we're usually living year to year, almost hand to mouth. So at least we got a stretch for the sunset out to 2020. The bill also included some reform and improvements for cable and TV competition, as well as some reforms for AT&T. Before there was discussion on microcells. One of the things that came up in the reform for AT&T, they want to get rid of all copper lines. That's problematic for some folks like myself who has a copper line in the house, because if I dial 911, I want that registered number to come up as my house. Well, for the rural areas and in some cases underserved areas, if copper goes away, they need something like a microcell, or what we also refer to as a femtocell, F-E-M-T-O, a femtocell, which, like, let's say in a farmer's house, he might have something on his pole, but at least he can use his cell phone from his house to dial 911 or other things. So there's a lot of reforms. There's been a little bit of pushback on that side of it from AARP and CUB, but we're working that through, and I guess they're not upset with the 911 portion of it, they're upset with the AT&T reform side of it. It also accommodates for grants for 911. Those of us who were silly enough to consolidate before the mandates spent a lot of money to consolidate, and we now have an opportunity to possibly recapture some of the costs that we expensed going back for a while. So there'll be some consolidation grants. There's some rules, new rules in there that you cannot avoid consolidation. Obviously, talked about the move to IP and next generation 911, which is mandated for us to do by 2022. There are some expenses for Will County 911 to do that. We need to upgrade some of our customer premise equipment, CPE, to accommodate a better handling of text to 911, video, audio, and a lot of things that go along with what they call the I3 standard. So that also takes us to a rate increase of $1.50, up from 87 cents, which I know a lot of people were opposed to, but there's a lot of, there were a lot of unfunded mandates that came out of the last act, 99006, that imposed upon us. Now we got to pay for the stuff that they mandated last time they passed the bill. So I want to publicly thank the Will County contingent, because we had 100% support from the senators, Harris, Trotter, Hastings, Conley, Reason, Hutchison, Redonia, who was also a co-sponsor, Holmes, McGuire, and Bertino Tarrant. In the House side, we didn't do as well, but Riley, Welter, Parkhurst, DeLuca, Kifowit, and Walsh were for us. We think it's enough votes for veto-proof, but we'll see if it goes to that. We're hoping the governor signs. Our associations are encouraging everybody to call the governor's office to sign the bill. The feedback we've been getting is the governor's office has been swamped with such phone calls. Also on the governor's website, on the pull down for topics of discussion, he now includes 911, so obviously it's caught the attention of the governor's office. Having said that, we need an appropriations bill because in about 17 days, we lose our funding starting June 30th. So we need an appropriations bill. The closest appropriations bill we can find that's still active is in the Appropriations Committee, and that's Senate Bill 1497. Currently, it's a lottery bill, and last time we were able to get an appropriation, we were linked to lottery and motor fuel tax with 911. We may have to do a repeat of that like we did last time. I don't know where that's going. Our associations have a conference call in a few days to discuss where we head from there. So I just want to publicly thank those who supported the 911 stuff, and I'll take any questions.
So it's going to sunset, so that's going to expire. And so now there's nothing saying for any kind of funding after that? I thought that was the bill.
If the governor signs the bill, it sets the stage to allow us to continue the 87 cents from July 1st to the first of the year. Starting the first of the year, it goes to $1.50 until 2020. If the governor vetoes the bill, it's got to go back for veto override, but we still need something in the form of an appropriations bill to keep on going. Even if it's a line item veto or an out and out successful veto, we still need to maintain the 87 cents after June 30th. So we're still kind of stuck. We're still getting some work done for our lobbyists, for our associations, but it will certainly help Will County, and it sounds like our reps and senators supported us in that effort.
Done.
I can't get out because we have the same problem with the GWIP board, that there's no, there's been no money that's been appropriated by the state, and in 17 days or whatever it is, the GWIP board is going to be out of business too. They're not be able to spend any money. Workforce Investment Board.
That's fine.
So it's federal pass through the waters. McGuire had
The federal government passed the money out.
They did. The federal government appropriated the money to the state. The state has not appropriated money down.
But I thought there was something where the feds have told Illinois you have to.
30 days, that's what the law is. But remember, they didn't do it. And the county had loaned the WIP board money to stay in business, remember? And that whole thing is coming up again. McGuire had a bill in the Senate, and it got killed in committee. It didn't come out of committee. That would say if you have federally appropriated money that's just a pass-through for the state has to pass it through. And I don't know if it's something we may want to look at, because we seem this is be the third year in a row we might have to deal with it to keep the WIP board in business.
And to your point, last time this happened to us, we had a 5-month drought in any payment at all, and we had to dip heavily into the reserves, which were earmarked for capital improvement things, which we had to stall. So it's a vicious circle. We'd like to get it done and over with, and at least be protected until 2020, which is, like I said, a first for 911, because we're usually dealing hand to mouth. Ironically, with Steve Figbett having to report on the consolidation plan, including LCC and other issues, the Laramie Communications Center, the state's requiring us to present a 5-year financial plan. They can't even tell us what's going to happen in 6 months. So it's kind of ironic that they want us to give them a 5-year financial projection. Well, are we getting 87 cents? We're getting $1.50? We're getting zero? It's a box that they've heavily put us in.
No, we need, that's so important. And also, we can just circle back to the grants that are coming back. I would like for us to be definitely in support of this and be able to do any assistance that we can, so you can.
Well, it's been announced that under the previous legislation, Will County will be getting some form of a grant. That's not been fully announced yet, so I don't want to give too much detail on that, but Steve Figbett was successful in getting through certain gateways to get to the grant. But that's primarily to support the interior stuff of the LCC, not the rest of us in 911 land. So that's a very targeted thing for that. With this new law, I think it will open up grants so that Westcom can recover from its consolidation costs that we incurred in 2012. Is there
anything we could do to help?
We will talk. I don't know that answer, but we will talk, because there are some things being planned, and I can't reveal them right now, but we've got a Westcom board meeting Thursday night to possibly outline that.
And we have our committees for E ETSB. Is that next week or?
Tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Good, I'm glad you're here and just reminding me of that. That's wonderful. Good.
That's all I have, unless there's other questions. Okay, thank you very much.
Nick?
Comment on
Sure.
the workforce. Yesterday at the Workforce Investment Board meeting, it did come up. And previously, the county had authorized kind of a line of credit. Subsequent to that meeting, or since that meeting, I checked and there was a sunset on that, like we don't have an open-ended loan. So if in fact we're gonna need to potentially do that, we're gonna have to bring that back in July. Hopefully there's not gonna be a need for that, but we may want to do that, so we may put a request in for that. The DOL, Jim, you were talking about that, there was state legislation, and DOL was approached, federal DOL, to get involved, and they, at that point, chose not to pressure them. But you're right, it is federal money that's just passed through, and at some point, if there is a long delay, they could get involved and say, distribute the money. It's not your money, it's our federal money that's coming through. But our workforce is limited in how much they can draw down technically ahead of time before they expend it. They're going to probably draw down some extra money, and they're probably going to get their hand slapped for that, but at some point they have to continue to function, and it's not a big deal, but it's not ideal. So.
It's not, right, like you said, can Nick and
We've
Reagan keep me on,
tried
yeah,
to
please,
message
because I know I saw the emails and everything was going through what's going on, and then with like 911 and this, again, great comment, Groundhog Day, because I'm having deja vu here. This happened this time last year. So we're trying, but yeah, if you can, Nick and Reagan, if you can kind of keep me abreast of this and with the committee, that would be great. All right. Thank you. I think we're almost done here. I do have the DC trips that I kind of put on for the fact that there was some confusion of how when we were doing the visit. We didn't leave you. We didn't leave you at all.
I think we totally damaged.
I know.
Remember when we left them that day?
I know,
We
it's
cannot
days.
get over it.
2 days.
You
2
just
days.
can't get over- But you need to keep
Not
up.
1 day, 2
It's a
days.
fast-paced operation, Herb. You gotta keep up.
That's me behind the bus.
So, yeah.
Well, we weren't driving the bus. We just went, you didn't get down to the bus. You know?
I think I got left too. I think you and I once got left.
I feel better now.
I've gotten left a couple times. It's like, oh,
This is brutal. So yeah, the whole theme on this, you come to DC with us, you gotta keep up, wear your sneakers, flats, something of that nature. But yeah,
I'm gonna
we
put
will
one of
keep
those, like little kids, a little strap on.
The the toddler leash. But yes, all kidding aside, we'll, the communication will definitely, and we're gonna talk about, and we've talked to Nick about this too, we have, once the study is over and we have other asks, we will get this going. So, on to other new business, executive session, public comment. Is there any public comment? Okay, I would just now need a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Meeting adjourned.
Yes, ma'am.